Neng.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I would like to declare my interest as I'm the CEO of the ComfortDelGro taxi business. 6 years after the first ride-hailing company entered Singapore, MOT has finally decided to regulate ride-hail sector more comprehensively. It is late, but it's better to be late than never. One taxi company, Smart Taxi, exited the market in 2013. The same year, Grab entered Singapore to grab a share of the P2P market. China started to regulate the private hire car sectors comprehensively in 2016, almost 3 years earlier than us. In the same year, 2016, OECD also published a paper on the regulation pertaining to the for-hire passenger transport. China's regulations has stipulated clearly that they would like to have the coexistence of taxis and the private hire cars or PHC. In London, the licensed taxis decreased by mere 1,000 from 2013 to 2017, while PHC has increased from 50,000 to 87,000 or 74% increase. In Singapore, the total taxi fleet has decreased from the height of 28,000 to 19,000 as of last month, while PHC fleet has increased from almost zero to 50,000, so maybe 50,000 times. When we compare Singapore's situations with that of China and London, the contrast is significant. Thus, I would like to ask SMS, does MOT has a view of the right mix of the number of registered taxis and PHC? Or is MOT happy to allow the market forces to determine the equilibrium mix of taxi and PHC? In determining the policy intention and direction, I would like to point out that there's a severe market imperfection in the point-to-point passenger transportation industry. And this is one of the reasons why the Competition and Consumer Commission of Singapore, CCCS, is still not removing the restrictions on a large ride-hail company. On the regulation of fare. Mr. Speaker, sir, earlier this year, Indonesia announced that it will regulate ride-hail fare with a maximum and minimum fare. Interestingly, Clause 59 of the current bill, Part 5 of the Public Transport Council Act, is amended to allow PTC to impose a ride-hail fare pricing policy that, amongst other things, fix the components of the ride-hail fares, specifying the factors to be applied, which is commonly referred as a surge pricing, fix a maximum or minimum price or a price range. Very often, ride-hail passengers are irritated by surge pricing, where the fare can surge by 100%, 200%, or more, whenever there's a shortage of vehicles or there's a sudden surge of demand. Thus, I would like to ask SMS whether the P2P bill that proposed to impose a ride-hail fare pricing policy is a signal that the authority is ready to regulate ride-hail fare, or it's just a mere provision to regulate the ride-hail fare in the future that is far, far away. On the qualification of drivers, both taxi and PHC drivers send passengers from point A to point B, and yet it is easier to be a PHC driver than a taxi driver. Why? Does MOT have the intention to enlarge the supply of PHC drivers and shrink the supply of taxi drivers? Let me illustrate why is it easier to become a PHC driver. First, PHC driver can be as young as 21 years old, while PHC driver can be as young as 21 years old, while the minimum age to qualify as a taxi driver is 30 years old. PHC driver only needs 1 day course to pass a 1-day course, but taxi driver needs to pass a 2-day course. And PHC driver can be a Singaporean or permanent resident, although PR needs to work as a chauffeur service driver. On the other hand, taxi driver must be a Singaporean and no PR is allowed. There's a historical reason why taxi driver needs to be 30 years old and above. I suppose the same logic applies for PHC drivers, unless MOT thinks PHC drivers is a totally different category as compared to the taxi driver. A collection of data. We note that under Clause 30, LTA is empowered to issue one or more codes of practice to straight hill and right hill operators. Currently, taxi companies, or in the future renamed as straight hill operators, have to provide trip data to LTA in real time. I would like to ask if LTA intends to require the right hill companies to also provide real-time trip data to LTA. If so, the real-time trip data will enable LTA to better analyze the overall travel pattern of all passengers using P2P transport providers. Such real-time data can also assist LTA and users of P2P services in the following ways. 1. When a passenger loses his item in a bookable vehicle, as defined in the Clause 4 of the bill, LTA can help to locate the lost item in a PSC of taxi in real time. This piece of work is best undertaken by LTA, as a bookable vehicle is able to take booking jobs from different ride-hailing platforms and different operators within a single day or within a single hour. 2. LTA can better identify the appropriate ride-hail operator when the driver has committed an offense or met with accidents. On the sandbox regulation, under Clause 5B, it is stated that one of the purposes of the bill is to enable development and operations of innovative and accessible point-to-point passenger transport services, which contribute to the mobility and safety of people in Singapore. Thus, it's understandable that Clause 24 to 26 under Part 4 of the bill allow LTA to exempt a ride-hail operator from applying for a license, especially it is an aggregator of a few ride-hail services like what Google is doing. I understand these clauses are meant to encourage innovation and thus the provision of sandbox regulation. However, I noticed that similar provision for sandbox regulation is not provided under Part 3 of the bill for straight hill services. Does MOT think that straight hill services cannot innovate? I have a case in hand whereby a startup named Vouch would like to refer taxi services provided by existing taxi operators to a hotel concierge through a chatbot. Such service is similar to that provided by Google, where it aggregates ride-hail services from a few ride-hail operators, and Google is exempted from applying for the ride-hail license under the sandbox regulation. Apparently, the state startup Vouch is required to apply for a third-party taxi license, but not Google. Why the discrepancy? On fare evasion, Clause 49 of the bill seeks to amend the Public Transport Council (PTC) Act, which spells out an offence of non-payment of ride-hail or straight-hail fare under Section 24D of the PTC Act. This is timely. Many passengers choose to pay the ride-hail fare by cashless mode, especially by way of credit or debit card. Unfortunately, many debit card users attempt to pay the ride-hail fare even though there's insufficient funds in their bank account. They get away with non-payment of the ride-hail fares, as banks can only verify their bank's balance after they have left the vehicle. Attempts by ride-hail operators to recover the fare often drew a blank. I would like to ask SMS whether MOT could consider the refusal by the debit card user to pay the ride-hail fare because he has insufficient funds in his bank account to be considered as a form of fare evasion. If so, it will serve as a strong deterrent for those who want to cheat the fare. Speaker sir, allow me to speak in Mandarin. 一长先生，德师傅已经被私招车困扰了好几年。私招车本是属于变相的霸王车，无拘无束，不被路交管理局管束。如今数目多了，路交局才愿意提交议案。正是私招车不被管制的危险性。点对点载客业法案虽然姗姗来迟，我们只能庆幸好过不来。我当了8年多的议员，有不少居民，包括德士师傅，向我请愿撤除他们的交通罚款。一般上，居民只有1、2个罚单，但是当私招的居民的交通罚款的罚单，往往有10多、20多张那么多，很明显的突出了私招车早期的风范。我希望的是私招车早期的风范。同时，许多居民的反映，私招车司机经常驾车驾到一半的时候，滑动手机上的全球定位系统，特别是私招车不时按照全球定位系统的突变指示，常常急转弯，忽视了本身的安全、达客的安全，还有其他司机的安全。 所以我对点对点载客业法案的期望，就是路交局能够在交通安全、汽车安全还有达客安全方面多加管制，对私招车司机和德士师傅一视同仁。印象最深，当我读到点对点载客业法案的第4和第5部分的时候，我发现交通部几乎把所有对德士业者的管制套在私招车业者身上。乍看之下，交通部好像在提倡公平竞争，细看之下则不然。比如条款32(1) 提到德士业者必须符合目前的服务质量 （quality of service）。同样的，条款32(1) 也要求私招车业者必须符合某一些服务质量，但是在业者询问之下，路交局好像没有意愿要求私招车业者和德士业者一样符合一些服务质量。与此同时，我也要向部长询问，交通部是否有意启动使法案赋予公共交通理事会的权利，制定私招车最高与最低的价位呢？在私招车业者，很多私招车业者在繁忙时间把车资调高几倍的做法，经常让达客咬牙切齿。许多国人都希望交通部能够在这方面有所作为。我希望交通部能够清楚地列明哪一些条款是路交局有意在近期内实行，哪一些条款是预防性的措施，只在紧急的时候才考虑要不要实行。要不然，点对点载客业法案可能让大家觉得有那种雷声大雨点小的感觉。德士师傅在新加坡建国54年以来，为国人默默的耕耘，是无名英雄。我们期望点对点载客业法案能让德士师傅继续生存，继续为国人服务，继续为新加坡服务，而不会被打压成为一个一时的点缀品。Mr. Speaker, sir, the point-to-point passenger transport industry bill is an important step to regulate the ride-hail industry, which has grown very big. While I support the bill, I hope MOT can help to address the above irregularities. Thank you.
Order. I propose to take a break now. I suspend the sitting and will take the chair at 4:25 p.m. Order. Order.